Hello everyone, welcome on in. It's a new week of Betting Weekly Game Bet Match, number one tennis betting podcast and YouTube show brought to you in association with Bet Rivers, your hometown sportsbook. This week on the ATP Tour we have two 500 events, a tournament in Switzerland and a tournament in Austria in Vienna. And we'd like to say, as per usual, on a Sunday, a little bit later than usual, but I'm really glad to say he's joining me again. It is our senior ATP Tour handicapper. It is Mr. Sean Calvert. Good evening to you, Sean.
Good evening. You all right?
How are you? I'm very well.
It's dark, isn't it? It's dark now. It's 6 o'clock. Can't be doing with that. Other than that, I'm all right. There's a cat. If you hear a noise, by the way, there's a little kitten from somewhere making a racket on my roof. So if there's a slight interruption due to yowling, that's the reason. Yeah, I'm all right, mate. Yeah, how are you?
We've got a cat on a hot tin roof.
Well, it's wood, but yeah.
Sean Calvert. Hot wood, cold
wood.
A cat on a cold, wet wooden roof.
I don't know what it's doing out there, actually. I don't know. Never mind.
Yeah, I'm good. Got a new car yesterday.
Oh yeah,
picked it up from the
Another
showroom.
one?
Yeah, got a new car. I've never bought a new car.
I thought you said about a month or two ago you got a new one.
I paid for it. It wasn't arrived. It didn't get delivered until yesterday. I picked it up yesterday.
See, I'm not familiar with this. I've never bought a brand new car in my entire life, ever. I probably never will. So this is an experience I know nothing about. So tell me.
They do a little. Well, when you get there, they have the car in the showroom, and you stand there and take a picture of you by the car and all the keys and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, it's quite flash. I didn't get a picture. I let Paula.
I guess it depends on what kind of car you get. I don't think they do that with a Ford Fiesta, would they?
It's not. To be fair, mate. This is. We're not living in. This is not like Lamborghini. This is a Toyota Yaris Cross. It's not exactly like. But it's nice. Nice. Got a little hybrid. Nice. Very nice. Drives nicely. Anyway, enough about that. So hopefully, bet some winners, and you'll be in the car showroom. Like get in the car. But anyway,
I don't think I'm ever going to do that. I'm too tight. I just feel like as soon as you've driven it off the showroom floor, you've lost about $2,000.
You probably have, but I mean, I've always wanted
treat yourself.
Anyway, it was just not. Yeah, we're treating ourselves. Anyway, we had a mixed week last week. I thought we were going to get Tallon Griekspoor through to the final.
Lucky with that.
Over in Stockholm. It was very unlucky.
Great
there.
match.
Obviously, Tommy Paul. It was an incredible game. I actually bet. Dimitrov in play to get out of our position actually, but I was cursing myself thinking I shouldn't have done that. Hedgings for Gardeners. What did you do, Nigel? And then obviously got lucky, so
he had to.
I felt a bit bad, but it was a bit of big. I wanted Griekspoor to win. Obviously, a much bigger cheer.
He had to play some brilliant tennis, Dimitrov, to win that. He really did. I didn't see much of the Stockholm final today, but I'm guessing it took quite a bit out of him by looking at the scoreline, Tommy Paul there. But yeah, you couldn't ask much more for Griekspoor, could you? He played great all week. He was within, a couple of points. If I'm being picky, there was a couple of occasions sort of in the second set. I think it was 5-all. Dimitrov was serving, and he was love 30. Griekspoor had a second serve, and he just dumped the return into the net. Stuff like that. You just think you can't be doing that. He should be looking back on that match now, thinking, well, yeah, I played a great match, but those little they're so important, those little points, aren't they? If it had won that point, or at least made it difficult for Dimitrov, looking at love 40, but he let him off the hook a little bit. But it was a great match. Dimitrov played great, Griekspoor played great, and we just unlucky came out the wrong side of it. Similarly to how we did with Mensik in Shanghai. I was just about to say, we're getting these very, very close, but just not quite getting over the line. But that's how it goes with the outrights, isn't it?
Yeah. There it goes, 33-1 Mensik 2 weeks ago, and then we have Griekspoor through to the semi-finals, just hitting that crossbar, a bit like that roof, that cat on that roof, just hitting that roof, hitting that bar. We need to go under that roof.
Gone now,
in between the guy. He's gone anyway. Also wins this week for Kachanov against Diallo. Kachanov is another one. We've bet him 2 times in the past and in recent weeks, and did before. Wins the Almaty tournament in Kazakhstan, and Roberto Bautista rolled back the years to beat Lehecka in the final and answer. That was a shock.
If you've backed him, let's see the betting slip in the comments. I mean, or whatever. Just tell us in the comments if you backed Bautista from the start to win that tournament. I mean, you tell me. I don't think he'd have been.
Well, it's end of season, isn't it? End of season, wacky times, crazy things happen in the tennis season.
Felix was terrible, just awful against. He wasn't great against Fucsovics by any means, but against Bautista, I saw most of that match. He was diabolical. I think he did have like a bit of a cough and a cold or something, but I'm not sure that's a great excuse for that level of tennis. I mean, I think he hit 58 unforced errors against Bautista Agut. So, yeah, that was dreadful performance from Felix, who normally plays great indoors. And now he's the two-time defending champion in this tournament we're about to talk about, isn't he?
I'm just about to say that. We're moving on now to this week, and it's starting off in Basel, in Switzerland. It's the Swiss indoor tournament. The tournament's been absolutely dominated by Roger Federer in the past. I think he's won it 6 times in the last 9 years. Nice outings, not years, because obviously years of COVID.
Yeah, the additions.
But in the last couple of years, it's been won by Felix Auger-Aliassime, the aforementioned Felix Auger-Aliassime, who was carrying our money last week. He was absolutely useless in that match against Bautista Agut. But he's here. He's a 2-time champion. We know he ends the season well. Before we go through the runners and riders and the seeds and the brackets, what have we got to look for here, Sean? I mean, it's dominated by Felix, Federer. My note says, and I'm going to tell you what, you know who I like, because I sent you a WhatsApp message, but Felix, Federer. I think you need to have an F, start with your name with an F to have a chance of winning here.
I suppose. I mean, Federer's surname was an F, wasn't it? I know where you're going. I know where you're going with this.
I know. You know where I'm going. Yeah.
You want to get it over now, or do you want to do that later?
No. People will be looking through the list now, trying to see who I like. But go on.
Federico Coria. No, he's not playing, is he?
Yeah.
So it's a green set. Well, I say it's a green set indoor hard court. That's what it's been in the past. The ATP now just put hard on their draw sheets, which, as I said in previous weeks, isn't that helpful. But let's assume it's still a green set. There's a little bit of altitude here, and Vienna, 265 metres here. They use Dunlop balls. Historically, not quite as quick as Vienna has been in the past. Averages still lively. Averages 81% holds and 74% almost first serve points won. That's pretty quick, but not as quick as some other indoor hard court events. But the last 2 years, I don't know whether this is a trend. I'm kind of assuming that it is. The last 2 years since it's been back on the tour since COVID, it seemed a bit quicker. In the last couple of years, 43% of the matches have featured a tie break. Sorry, 43% is the average. The last 2 years, it's been 50% of the matches have featured a tie break. Over 10.5 games in set one. Last couple of years, 42% of the matches have gone over 10.5 games in set one. That's big. There's no trend on the overs and unders. It's exactly 50% on over and under 22.5 games. But the underdog winner stat here is, I don't know whether this is just because of Federer winning so many matches and maybe one or two others, but only 25% of the underdogs have won here on average in the last 9 editions, which puts it right down there amongst the Grand Slams, like any of the Grand Slams actually. In terms of underdog winners, the round one is the best at 28%, which still isn't not great at all for round one of an ATP Tour event. So I'm going to be a little bit careful with my bets here, because there is a very strong trend for not many underdogs winning, both here and in Vienna. Certainly in Vienna last year, there was hardly any at all. As far as the trends are concerned, it's all skewed a bit by Roger Federer, isn't it? But one of the top 6 seeds has won this tournament every year since Jiří Novák won it in 2004. So basically the last 20 years, last 20 years, a couple of editions weren't played because of COVID, but very strong trend there for one of the top 6 seeds winning it. But that said, it was usually Federer. Only one qualifier's made it past the quarterfinals here in the last 18 years. That was Marius Copil in 2018. So no luck at all for the qualifiers here. So those are the conditions and trends.
Yep, conditions and trends. Here is the draw. There's 32-man draw, 8 seeds. No one's got to buy. They've all got to play in the first round. It's a 500 event. Andrei Rublev is the number 1 seed. He's at the top of the draw. If it goes to the schedules, he will play Ben Shelton in the quarterfinals. Stephan Tsitsipas will play Artur Fils. Hugo Humbert in the bottom half of the draw will play Holger Rune. Felix Auger-Aliassime, the 2-times champion, will play Casper Ruud, who is scheduled to play Roberto Bautista Agut if the Spaniard makes it, which I'll be very surprised after his exertions last week. Looking at the race to Turin, which I think is very important at this time of year, Andrei Rublev has to do quite well here as well as Casper Ruud. They should be okay. Obviously you've got Paris to come with 1,000 with big points at stake, but you got Rublev and Ruud who are probably looking to cement their place in Turin. I suppose there's a bit of interest in those two wanting to do well. But other than that, I think a lot of the players are coming to the end of their seasons, a long season. So motivation is definitely going to be questionable for a few of these players. Here is the betting with Bet Rivers. Andrei Rublev heads the market at plus 550, the number 1 seed. As I said, he does need some points to be certain of his place in Turin. Ben Shelton is plus 650. I mean, always at the top of the market. I don't know whether that's American money that's coming for him, but he doesn't deliver. Holger Rune on the back. He's just come on all the way back from Saudi, plus 650. Leheka, $9. Ugo and Bear, $9. Felix also had a scene. Very poor last week, but is the two-time champion here, 11. Artur Feast, 14. Casper Ruud, 14, the number 2-3. Tallon Griekspoor played excellent last week, 18. Shapovalov, 18. Zhang, 25. Tabilo, 25. Arnaldi, 30. And 33 to 1 bar, including Bublik and Marian Cilic. Looking at that draw, I would say slight advantage in the bottom half if he was forced, but not really much in it, really, but slight advantage in the bottom half.
I would say that, yeah. I'd say the bottom half looks better, the better place to be. I've got one in the bottom half, as you can probably imagine. You want me to go through that now?
Yes,
I'm taking my old friend Ugo Humbert here in the bottom half of the draw. I mean, I said this about Felix last week. I said Felix was an absolute beast indoors, and he ended up playing terrible. Humbert, similar story. He was a final set tiebreak away from making the final here last year. I think he lost to Hurkacz in a final set tiebreak in the semis. Won 6 of his 8 matches here in Basel. Indoor conditions most definitely suit Humbert. He got to the final, should have won in Tokyo, which was technically outdoor hard, but they played most of it with the roof on because of the weather there. Should have won that tournament at match point. The only time he's ever lost in a final, actually, isn't it? He's won his previous 7. Would have broken the record if he'd have beaten Feast that day. And his draw looks kinder than that of Holger Rune, who's the other one I've considered. As you say, he's just come back from that exhibition in Saudi, hasn't he? The thing that I was
$1.5 million richer.
Yeah, I mean,
from that Saudi.
I'm not sure how he's getting
$6 million to the winner
in these things. It's
his mum's had a word with the Saudis.
I think it's all just feeding his ego, isn't it? You're getting like Djokovic, Sinner, Medvedev, all these guys that have, Nadal and Alcaraz, all these guys that
major champions.
And then you chuck in Holger Rune in there. I have not really feeling the vibe on that. But anyway, the thing that slightly concerned me was that Rune's got a 3-0 head-to-head over Humbert, but they were a little while ago when Rune was flying and Humbert was a little bit in the doldrums. So I'm not too concerned about that, because Rune's also got to face Jarry in the first round, then either Stricker or Griekspoor. So 2 tricky ones for him, whereas Humbert gets one of the qualifiers and then either Matteo Arnaldi or Carballes Baena. So a much more comfortable, if you like, looking early draw for Humbert. And Rune keeps having these really bad days, doesn't he? Again against Fritz in Shanghai, he just doesn't show up. Just gets blown off the court, and there's always an excuse or reason, I wasn't feeling well or whatever. But looking at the stats, indoor hard last 12 months, Humbert 80% win rate and a service points won and return points won total of 109, and a service hold and break total of 111. You're not going to get better stats than that in this tournament. Look at Rune; he's on a 60% win rate, and his totals are 101 and 102, so miles behind that of Humbert. So, yeah, Humbert played in the UTS event at Frankfurt over the weekend, so he should be attuned a little bit to indoor conditions. So I'm taking him in the bottom half. I've got one in the top half, which is a real punt. Humbert's a kind of solid choice. Just
with that Holger Rune factor, Sean, I'm sorry to interrupt you there before we go on to the top half. Holger Rune, I mean, there is some kind of attitude. I mean, he can't get into Turin. He's not got enough points, and he's got I don't think it's physically possible for him to get in Turin. It may be that he's picked up the $1.5 million now and thinks that's it, just prepared now for the Australian Open. He's the kind of kid who might think that. And if you look at his draw, I mean,
he's played well at Paris before,
hasn't
he? In Paris,
yeah, he's got, which is next week. He's got that probably be the priority. He's got Griekspoor, Stricker round 2, and I think whoever wins that match, if he gets past Jarry, I wouldn't fancy his chances to get there. So I think Rune would be a fade this week. So I like your thinking of Humbert. I've actually got Humbert on my little note jottings down there on the draw. I've actually got Humbert in the final as well, but we differ who I think we might make the final. So I don't know if you noticed, I was sneezing. I had to put it on mute because I've got a sneezing fit now, so I might have to go.
I was looking at my notes. I wasn't looking at what you were doing. Sorry.
Oh, I've got a sneezing fit. So carry on with the top half, and if I go on mute, I'm having an attack of the sneeze.
Fair enough. I'm taking a real punt in the top half of the draw here. I mean, I'm not convinced about Rublev. After this operation that he's had, he doesn't look right at all. Yes, he might have the motivation of Turin, but sometimes with Rublev, you don't want him too fired up, do you? He needs to relax a bit. He's still going crazy on the court again, like he did against Wawrinka last week. He's still, not quite mentally stable. I'm not sold on him at plus 550. Yeah, he got the motivation, but He hasn't got the form. So I'm taking a real punt here. I'm taking Sasha Bublik at 33-1. I think he's got, if he fancies it, he could certainly make the final here. That's always the question with Bublik. Does he fancy it? Well, who knows? He should do. I mean, looking at his stats, last 12 months on indoor hard at main level, service points won and return points won total of 103. That's better than Holger Rune, incidentally, by a couple of points. And a 69% win rate. That's much better than Holger Rune. He won Antwerp this time last year pretty comfortably, Bublik. And, is he in the mood? That's it. If he's in the mood, for me, he's got the capability of making the final here at 33-1. He could also lose in the first round to whoever the qualifier is. But he should fancy this. He hasn't played too much tennis. He's been losing quite a lot of matches. Clay court swings. It's not for him. Hasn't really fired at all since probably late spring, really. So he should have plenty in the tank. Conditions suit him. Don't mind taking a little bet on him at 33-1 here.
Yep, Bublik 33-1, available with Bet Rivers. Head across to the Bet Rivers website and the app. The outright markets will be on the site now. An early start tomorrow as well, so make sure you head across there. And if you do play any of the matches, which Sean's going to come on to as well, remember you'll be able to bet live and watch live. Before we leave this outright behind, I like Artur Feast. I know I messaged you.
The F factor.
The F factor is the most important factor on the whole thing, not the X factor, the F factor. He broken into the top 20 in the world. I think he's a player on the up and up and up. I think he could break through to be a real star next year. I was so impressed with him in Japan when he won the Tokyo. Beat Umber in the final. Beat Shelton, beat Rune, beat Berrettini, beat Fritz. I mean, he had a real tough route to that final and won it. I think
saved a ton of match points.
He was underdog in every one of his matches. And he saved and he was brilliant. And then he was burnt out again for Shanghai. So he went to Shanghai, got beat 7-6, 7-6 against Kabash Bainer.
Yep.
And now he's had almost 2.5 weeks off. Come back here, head to Paris. I think he's going to go deep here.
Possibly.
And he's around about 12-1 with Bet.
I mean, could he be saving himself for Paris next week? I don't know.
Well, it could be, but I just think he's young enough, hungry enough. I mean, at the end of the year, you've got to look at players who are hungry, who want the desire. And I think Artur Feast is going to be pumped. He not 20 years of age? 20 years of age, you just want to go and win and get as much in the old bank balance as you can. In one day, he might be able to buy a Toyota Yaris Cross.
And get his photograph taken with the dealer.
And get his photograph with the local dealer in the Sidcup branch of
he can only dream about that at the minute, though, to be fair.
Yeah, you can only dream about it. But one day may happen. Let's move on to some matches. You
can put this in as official pick if you want. I mean, it's up to you.
No, listen. I
don't let me stop you.
I'll leave the official picks for you. No, I'm going to leave the official picks for you. I do like Artur Feast, so I really think this boy's going to be a Grand Slam winner of entire. I think he'll win a Grand Slam in about 2 or 3
He's a great
years.
player, 100%.
Yeah. Let's have a look at some matches. I think we've got 3 here, haven't we? In Switzerland, or we got 2? Just the 2. I think we've got 3. So we've got 3 matches. Yeah, here we go. So we've got 3. First off, we're going to start off with Denis Shapovalov against Zhang. Shapovalov is minus 136. Yang is plus 110. The spread here is 1.5, and the total is a very high 23.5, with under the favourite minus 129. Pair of these have never played before. Shapovalov is dropping down the rankings, but he's played a lot of indoor tennis. He's played 8 matches this year compared to Zhang, who hasn't played 1 match indoor. Zhang has travelled. Both of them travelled back from Shanghai. Zhang got beat by Alcaraz in round 2, and Shapovalov got beat by Ben Shelton. But prior to that, we saw a little bit of improvement from Shapovalov at the Davis Cup, and he did play quite well in qualifying to reach the main round, but he was a bit unlucky to draw Shelton. The early build-up for this match is quite interesting because there was money for Zhang, and in the last hour or so, there's been a little bit of move for the Canadian here, Shapovalov. I'm not quite sure if I buy that, but I'm interested to see where you want to go here.
Yeah, I'm not buying it. This looks a bad price on Shapovalov, on everything he's done recently. 2024 at main level on hard courts. Shapovalov, 40% win rate. Service points won and return points won. Total's okay at 101. 40% win rate only. Shang, 68% win rate. And a tiny fraction better on the totals, 101.4. So tiny advantage on the service points won and return points won totals, but a much bigger win rate for Jerry Shang. Shang is winning 54% of his second serve points in those matches compared to 47% for Shapovalov. Chapo's still plagued by these double fault issues. He hasn't sorted that out at all as his career's gone on. Still hits one double fault every 2 service games on average. Whereas Shang for example, hits one double fault every 5 service games. So still got that major problem, Shapovalov. He hasn't been able to deal with that technical issue that he has with his ball toss and the service motion. Shapovalov also with a weak record recently against fellow left-handers, lost 5 of his last 7 against fellow lefties. Shang's won 9 of his last 10. 9 of his 10 in 2024 against fellow left-handers. So better form there for Shang against lefties. I've looked at what they've done against top 50 ranked opponents. Shapovalov's won 39% of his matches versus top 50 players in the last 2 seasons. Shang's won 4 of his last 5. I'm just not sure why Shapovalov's favourite for this. The only thing I can think of is that the layers are just looking at the conditions, indoor hard, and saying, well, Shapovalov's pretty good in those conditions. Well, maybe. And Shang hasn't played too many matches on indoor hard, but I don't see it being an issue for Shang. He won the title in Chengdu, very quick conditions. I don't see the roof being a big plus for Shapovalov. It may be, but certainly, that's the only reason I can think that Shapovalov is favourite for this match. It's not on stats. It's not on form. It's not on match wins. So I don't really get it. So I'm happy to take Shang as dog here, plus 110 to Bet Rivers.
Yeah, huge difference in the world rankings as well. Current form, everything. Shapovalov, player who everyone thought would break into I think he almost did hit the top 10.
Well, he's
sort of 10 years ago. So
he's not
gone backwards.
He's not really proving Mikhail Yuzhny wrong, is he? When Yuzhny and he split up as a coaching partnership, Yuzhny said, "Look, I don't want to be mean, but he hasn't got the right attitude," and Shapovalov got a bit angry about that. But he's just proved him right, really. Shapovalov plays the way he plays, and that's it. The point construction isn't really there. He's got these big weapons, and he tries to use them, but if it doesn't come off, he's gone. If he has a great day, he can blow you away, but he turns up the next day, the double faults come in, the unforced errors come in, and he loses tamely. So, the consistency isn't there. So I'm more than happy to take that price.
Yep. Zhang, our first official play here in Switzerland, and we're going to go for Zhang to beat Shapovalov at plus 110 currently with Bet Rivers. I think there'll be about 38 different markets available on the Bet Rivers website. And as I say, do remember this is an early start. I think it's scheduled to start around about 6 o'clock Eastern time, 6 a.m. tomorrow. So make sure you head across to the Bet Rivers website nice and early to get these bets on, because you haven't got much time. Actually, it's 4 a.m. Eastern time. It's an earlier even start, so make sure you get across very, very early. Okay, let's move on to our second match, and this one really does interest me. I'd highlighted this one before I even knew you were going to talk about it. Stanislas Wawrinka up against Adrian Mannarino. Stanislas Wawrinka minus 143, Mannarino plus 117. The spread 1.5, and the total exactly the same number, 23.5. Now, when these two players have played before, previously, there's always been they've been long matches. There was a 5-setter in the Australian Open where Wawrinka was 2-1 up, and his age caught up with him. His legs went through him. He lost 6-3, 6-love in the final set. And he took the first set again in Astana in 2022, and then Mannarino came back and won again. We made a lot of money last week from betting Wawrinka, or the last couple of weeks, betting Wawrinka to win the first set. He was winning first set, but he was winning matches. I don't think he can carry on at 39 years of age. He got to the semi-finals last week. Mannarino's had an awful run, but he's showing signs of improvement. And I can't see it. I can't be back in standing. I know it's his home crowd. I know it's in Switzerland. I know he's going to be very, very popular. I know he's going to have a huge amount of support in potentially what could be his last tournament here. But after the week he just had, minus 143. Very interesting.
It looks a questionable price, doesn't it, on Wawrinka, who, as you said, played a lot of tennis last week in Stockholm. The head-to-head, it's pretty overwhelming for Mannarino in terms of the service points won and return points won totals. 106 to 94 in favour of Mannarino. Just breaking that down, Mannarino wins 6% more points on serve and on return. He wins 6% more points on second serve. He holds serve 8% more often than Wawrinka. And he makes it physical, Mannarino. And I just wonder what Stan's got left. I know he's playing in Basel, but he hasn't always produced his best in Switzerland by any means. He's got a pretty sketchy record over the years playing at home. And Mannarino's still got work to do this season. He's still got points to defend from when he won Sofia right at the end of last season. He also won Astana, didn't he? And hasn't really backed up those points either. So he's on a downward spiral. I mean, he's 36 years of age. I wonder how long he's going to carry on. If he wants to carry on at the top level, he's going to have to start getting some points pretty quickly, because his ranking's going to fall even further in a few weeks if he doesn't go very deep in a tournament between now and the end of the season. There's not much in it in their last 10 main level matches in terms of their service points won and return points won total. Stan's 1 point ahead on 98 compared to Mannarino's 97. But the odds, I mean, Mannarino was 1.46 favourite when they met in January at the Australian Open, and now he's slight underdog, plus 117. Not sure about that. I'm a little concerned about Mannarino's physicality now at 36. He's not exactly shown the best of stamina in recent months, so it's just going to be a lean for me, but I think Mannarino is potentially a hint of value there.
Yeah. Plus 117 is the price. Head across to the BetRivers website if you want to play the Frenchman, but it is a lean for Sean. We mentioned the match earlier on the preview. We thought it was going to be a difficult one to call, and the winner will probably play Holgerun if he gets past Nicolas Jarry, probably, but he's minus $3 to get past him. Tallon Griekspoor up against Dominic Stricker. Tallon Griekspoor gave us a great run last week, a really good run to the semi-finals in Antwerp. He's a heavy favourite here. He's minus 205 against Stricker, who's plus 160. Spread is 2.5, and the total's 23.5. Now, over minus 107. Whenever Stricker plays, I always look at the over straight away, and playing Griekspoor, this looks to me like an absolute certain first set over. So I don't know what the angle you're going to come in this, Sean, but the money line looks, I'd probably bet Stricker in myself at plus 160. But if we can get a decent price over 10.5 or a tie break this set one, I've got to be playing. If you're looking at the head-to-head, they've never met before, so there's nothing really to go on. But Stricker in front of his home crowd, Griekspoor serving like he is, playing well. This looks like a long one.
Yeah, exactly what I've written down here. Actually, over 10.5 in set one is 2.48 plus 148 at BetRivers.
Oh,
so yeah, we're kind of thinking along the same lines here. It's obviously a tight turnaround for Griekspoor, isn't it, from the Stockholm semi-final Saturday night last night. I don't know when this match is scheduled. I can't imagine it'll be tomorrow. I presume it'll be Tuesday. Even so, it's still a kind of a tight turnaround, facing a very motivated opponent in Stricker, who's back from a recent, I think it was a back injury that he's had in recent months. And, he played really well last week. He beat Berrettini. And he won 80% of his first serve points last week in Stockholm. 89% holds, 80% first serve points won. And what he's done in Basel in the past, Stricker, he's won 81% of his first serve points and held serve 85% of the time, with 3 of his 6 matches having gone to a set one tiebreak. So, kind of obvious where I'm going here. Griekspoor in Stockholm last week, 90% holds a serve, 80% first serve points won. Given that it's the first match between these two, as you said, I don't think they've ever met before, have they?
No.
Then there's that. There's no familiarity there either. It's kind of obvious play, really, that they're going to take a little bit of time to figure each other out on serve. So set one overs for me here. 2.48 plus 148.
I would even go up better tie break set one here if you can get a
3.2
nice big price on that.
Plus 220.
Yeah, I think if you're going to get 10.5, you might as well have a little bit of a saver on the tie break as well, because these two, I think they're going to go at it set number one. It's going to be high scoring. Stricker played Berrettini, didn't he?
Berrettini, beat him.
It was 7-6 in the first set. That was a 7-6. I think, yeah. And he played.
Lost to Dimitrov.
Dimitrov, wasn't it? Yeah, he lost to Dimitrov. But I couldn't agree more. I think over 10.5, may play the tie break as well, a little hedge. But that's definitely a bet. So there's 2 official plays in Basel. Is it Basel or Basel?
I actually don't know. I call it Basel, but I could be wrong, and I stand to be corrected. And I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but I tend to call it Basel.
Okay, in Basel, 2 official plays, 1 lean, and we'll give you a recap at the end of the show. Let's move across, not too far from Basel. We're going to Austria, to Vienna. Beautiful city. I was there last year. The cathedral, lovely place.
The second
very
court,
nice, very nice. 2
miles away or whatever it was.
Yeah, I went to the to 2 courts, one of them totally different parts of the city.
That is weird.
We had a bet on the out. We had a bet on the outside.
Yeah,
got there.
We had Karatsev, didn't
she
we?
said, that was it. You got such a good memory. I can never remember.
I think it was Karatsev. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it was. And I was saying,
and it was miles away.
Yeah, you had to get a taxi there, didn't you, or something?
I didn't bother. I stayed in. I thought we stayed on the centre court, so I just stayed. But it's two venues. So if you go to Vienna, you've got one court where you watch the centre court. If you want to watch the outside court, different part of the city. When it was last year, I can't see any reason why it wouldn't change this year. But it was a good. So I watched Medvedev play Artur Fils, and Artur Fils is now carrying my money in the Swiss indoors. Anyway, it's the Vienna tournament, and again, looking at the roll of honour here, you've got to be a big player. The big players have done well here. Last year it was won by Sinner. Medvedev won it in 2022. Zverev won it in 2021. Rublev won it in 2020. And Dominic Thiem, when he was at the top of the world, or not top of the world, but top of his game, won it in 2019 as well. So big players have done well here in Vienna. Before we go on to the draw, before we go on to the bets and the outright market, what are the trends here in Vienna? It was quick there. I thought it was quite quick last year. I can remember. Yep. Memory served me. Quite quick. Call.
Yeah, pretty quick conditions. Again, a tiny hint of altitude, 220 metres. They usually play this on a rebound ace indoor hard court, but who knows what they play with now because the ATP don't tell us. It averages slightly more than Basel over the last 6 editions in terms of service holds, 83%, 74% first serve points won is more or less exactly the same as Basel. Tiebreak matches on average over the last 6 editions, 43% of them have featured a tiebreak. Now, over 10.5 in set 1 here is it's only 31% over the last 6 editions. So not as good as how Basel has been in recent times, but it's still pretty lively. As far as over-unders is concerned, nothing really there. Under 22.5 games is 51% of those in the last 6 editions. Nothing really major there. And again, underdogs, not great. Only 30% on average have won in the last 9 editions. Only 4 of the last 47 underdogs has won in round 1 of Vienna, which is dreadful as far as...
It's strange, isn't it, really, when you think about it, at the end of the year, when you get so many weird results, to have that high amount of favourites winning is like...
43 of the last 47 favourites.
Yeah. It's weird, isn't it? You would have thought towards the end of the year, you would have thought there's more chance of players thinking, I've had enough, rest up, but it's not.
Well, the best round here by a million miles is the quarter-final, where an average of 49% of the underdogs have won in the last 9 editions. So maybe when the big guys have got to the sort of quarters, they've just thought, you know what, I've got Paris next week, I've got Turin or whatever. My work here is done. Maybe I don't know. That's just a theory, but yeah, that's big. Almost half of the underdogs winning over the last 9 editions as well. It's not a recent trend. It goes back quite a long time. So it's something to bear in mind later in the week when perhaps we're not on air. As far as the trends are concerned, qualifiers have made the final twice here in the last 4 years. One of them was a lucky loser, Sonego, I think. So decent for qualifiers. The number 1 seed, the top seed, has only won here twice in the last 7 editions. But 5 of the last 6 winners have been single-figure prices, whereas 4 of the last 5 runners-up have been priced between 18-1 and 250-1. That was Sonego when he got to the final as a lucky loser. So those are the conditions and trends.
Yep. Let's have a look at the runners and riders. If we look at the draw, Alexander Zverev is the number 1 seed. Big doubts about him, but he's the number 1 seed in terms of his physicality and his motivation. But he is the number 1 seed here in Austria. Number 2 seed is Alex de Minaur. And the number 3, we'll go through the draw order actually. Zverev is number 1 seed. He will play Mazzetti in the quarterfinals if he went there, so in that quarter. Q2 would be Dimitrov against Draper in Q2. Q3 in the bottom half of the draw will be Tiafoe against Tommy Paul, an all-American quarter, a lot of Americans in that quarter. And the 4th quarter will be Alex Popyrin against Alex de Minaur, the battle of the Alexes. Looking at motivation, Zverev is already through. He's number 3, secured his place in Turin, so he's there, he's done. Alex de Minaur needs a big week here. Obviously, ruled out injuries. Currently 9th in the race for the Turin. So he wants a good week here to make sure that he can push his way into there. So he needs some motivation here. As does the number 3 seed, Dimitrov, runner-up, lost in the final in Stockholm there against Tommy Paul. And Tommy Paul as well. So there's 3 players there, number 9, number 10 and number 11 in the race for Turin, who might need a little bit of a big week here or a big week next week to force their way into the reckoning for the final spots in Turin. And again, that is reflected in the betting because Alexander Zverev is the favourite. He's $3. I wouldn't touch that. Would they your money, Sean?
Nope.
Tommy Paul on the back of that win and now forcing his way into the Turin reckoning. He's second favourite plus 750. Alex de Minaur is 8. Jack Draper is 8. Dimitrov is 9. Berrettini 12. Mahak is 14, TFO 18, Kachanov 18, Monfils 20, Musetti 22, Poprin 28, who that looks a big price, but we don't know what levels he's going to have. And then we get 33-1 bar, which includes Alex Mickelson and Brandon Nakashima, the two American players. Looking at the draw again, I think really that's very hard to say. Really, I wouldn't know which is the easiest section. I think they're very fair, but I think there's a fade to Zverev here at $3.
Well, he's had pneumonia, hasn't he? And he's looked very, very tired and kind of cranky, and he's played so much tennis. He's played about 70-odd matches so far this season. I think I've got it written down. It's 79 matches he's played already this season, Zverev. I don't know why he didn't take a break. I mean, if you and I had pneumonia, well, certainly me, I'd be coming on here moaning about it pretty much every episode. It's very.
Yeah, but he's getting paid 250,000 every appearance, Sean. That's the difference. That's the difference. That's the.
The Shanghai, he had to really battle though through, didn't he? Against Griekspoor was one of them. He had to really, but he could easily have just faded away then, couldn't he? But he's not. He's been kind of battling on. But yeah, 79 matches already is crazy. So the obvious choice here for me in the top half is Jack Draper. He's 8-1 chance, I think, with Bet Rivers. He's had 3 weeks off since he had yet another physical issue, the abdominal issue that stopped him in Tokyo. So that should be enough. 3 weeks to fix that. He should be fit for this. If we look at what he's done in the last 3 months at main level, service points won and return points won, total of 106, which is very good indeed. Last 10 main level matches on indoor hard, 91% holds of serve, and a service points won and return points won, total of 109. And he's got, just looking at the draw, he's got a pretty handy early draw. I mean, he should be beating Nishikori, really, at this stage of their respective careers. Then he would have either Thiem or Dardari in the next round. I mean, he really shouldn't be losing to either of those. And then potentially either maybe a fatigued Dimitrov, who looked, pretty tired at the end of the Griekspoor match. Then he's had to play Tommy Paul. Now he's got to come back and play Zhang. He might not even win that. If he does, he'll probably have Mahach or Marijan. So, I mean, Mahach looked very, very tired last week. Unfortunately, it was the match after we bet against him, didn't we? We took Skatov to beat him, and he didn't really show up much, Skatov. And then Mahach retired in the first set of his next match. I did think he was due a sort of a bad week, a sort of not great week, and that's what happened. Is he still? What's he got left, Mahach, after all that tennis that he's played in recent weeks? So a good draw for Draper, good statistics, good form. So in the top half, I'm taking Draper, and I'm taking a punt in the bottom half because I think that's really wide open, the bottom half.
I did say Poprin looked quite big at 28-1, but I just see the draw now. He's got to play Mensik in round 1 tomorrow. So that's a very interesting match. It's currently a 50-50 call with Bet Rivers who goes through on that match. So that takes my view off him. Who do you like in the bottom half?
I like Mensik.
Oh, right there. Yeah.
I mean, these have only just been put in the qualifying draw. In the main draw from qualifying. So that's why it's taken a long time to record today, because we've been waiting for outright prices, and they didn't do them until the qualifiers had been placed in the draw. So, as you said earlier in the show, we were unlucky with Mensik in Shanghai, 33-1. He was a set away from cashing that quarter winner bet. Lost in the final set to Djokovic. Now he's back again, cruised through the qualifiers, very, very comfortably, and faces Popyrin, as you said, who he beat easily in Umag. Did you watch that match, Pop? I think I watched it, didn't I? I watched it. I watched it. Popyrin against Popyrin was defending champion. Centre court. Admittedly, there weren't many people there. Mensik beat him pretty comfortably. So no worries on the matchup as far as Mensik's concerned. I do rate him very highly, as I've said before, Mensik. 33-1, and this half of the draw looks good value, as I've said. Khachanov is just coming off a title in and then he said Astana and Almaty, isn't it? He's just literally played the final there. So has Tommy Paul, just played a final in Stockholm. Minaur, for me, he's not fully fit at all. Looked nowhere near last week. Struggled. I'll talk about him again in a few minutes, but certainly struggled in Antwerp. TFO, hit and miss. Played pretty well against Dan Evans. We were unlucky with Evans. Should have won that in straight sets. But then he went and lost to Vukic. TFO, he is another one that's played an awful lot of tennis. So I think there's a chance for somebody in this bottom half. I mean, the winner of Popyrin Mensik is a strong contender for me. It could easily be Popyrin. But it looks open. A lot of fatigued players, a lot of players a bit jaded. So the hungry ones for me are the ones worth backing, and that for me is Mensik.
You picked two of the youngest players in the draw, and hungry, determined, on the upward scale. Other players, Dimitrov. Can you imagine? I can't imagine Dimitrov really being too concerned about this tournament stage of his career. Jack Draper and a young man, Jakub Mensik, two young men making a big statement in the tennis game. That they're the picks for Sean. Top half Draper 8, bottom half Mensik 33-1. Sorry, Sean, did you say something?
I can't remember now.
Oh, sorry, mate. I don't think it was
important. I don't think it was important.
Okay. All right. But we got your picks. Mensik in the bottom at big price, and we have Draper in the top half. We do have two matches that Sean wants to discuss, and the first match is involving. We have the order of play out here already, so the order of play is out already, and neither of these matches feature tomorrow. So it's an 8 a.m. start tomorrow. You need to get down early to get on the tournament winner prices, but you might not have to rush so quickly to get on these match bets. But usually the prices that Sean does pick move very quickly. So bear that in mind. I think these matches will be played on Tuesday. Definitely won't be played tomorrow. Alex de Minaur, as we said, we're worried about his injury. He's concerned. He's a number 2 seed. It's a bit of a long way off. He's up against Jan-Lennard Struff. De Minaur is favourite here at minus 345. Struff is plus 265. Spread 2.5. And the total here is 22.5. These two have played 6 times previously. Alex de Minaur leads 4-2. They played twice this year. It's been 2 wins for de Minaur, 1 win in the French Open and 1 win in Miami in quick conditions. And in 2023, Struff won on clay. And they have met on indoor before in the hard court at Basel. Actually, it was de Minaur that won in straight sets 6-4, 7-6. But this is, it's de Minaur that is getting back to his full fitness. And a long time off, and he's got a very dangerous opponent. If he starts bombing them big serving bombs down, he can be in a bit of trouble with.
Yeah, this is a very difficult round one for de Minaur, considering he's lacking matches. He's clearly lacking match sharpness, match fitness. And given those injury issues, he does look very short here. It's minus 345. It's very short. I don't know whether the layers watched him last week. He barely, I'm assuming they did, but they're showing him too much respect here. He barely got past Roberto Carballes Baena. Just about edged through, and then he lost to Hugo Gaston. It's not, you wouldn't expect de Minaur to really be too troubled by either of those two guys. I mean, Gaston, we know, is mercurial. He can be brilliant on his day, but not a great showing from de Minaur. They've both had the same issue, actually, recently, Struff and de Minaur. They've both had hip problems. So Struff's not played on the tour since the US Open, but he did play that UTS exhibition at the weekend in Frankfurt, so at home conditions indoors, so that could be quite good preparation for this tournament. And he's only played 41 matches this season, Struff, due to various injuries. He played 69 last year, so he certainly should have gas in the tank. And as I'm tempted often with Struff to start well, he tends to start his matches at his best level. He's won the opening set 4 times and lost on another one occasion in a tiebreak against de Minaur in 6 meetings. So he has tends to start strongly against de Minaur. Sometimes de Minaur's been able to turn it around, but the first set I think is certainly an interesting market here. Struff's also won the opening set 18 times in 54 matches against top 10 opponents. That includes all the best players in the world. So he's got a long and storied history of starting well. If you look at their head-to-head, as you said, 6 matches, de Minaur leads 4-2, but he doesn't lead the service points won and return points won totals across the whole series. Struff does, 102-98. So you could argue de Minaur potentially been a little bit lucky there. I think one of his wins was a final set tiebreak. Yeah, it was. First time they played was a final set tiebreak, so probably that one should have gone the other way. And Struff's actually won more return points in this matchup than de Minaur has, which is a big surprise. 37% compared to 35%. And he's held serve 84% of the time against de Minaur. So if Struff's fit, and I presume he is, playing that exhibition, big price of Bet Rivers to win the opening set, plus 195, 2.95 to win set 1. That's probably the way to go here.
Yeah, plus 195 to win set 1 for the big serving German, Jan-Lennard Struff. As I say, the match doesn't start tomorrow. It'll be on Tuesday, and that'll be a big price. 28 different markets available with Bet Rivers, and if you do have a bet on the website or the app, you'll be able to bet live and watch live. Watch the match from the comfort of your own home with Bet Rivers. Our final match we are going to discuss is the man who's just won the tournament in Stockholm, Tommy Paul, in good fashion. Didn't even drop a set. Looked really impressive. Route to the finals pretty simple, and he dismantled Dimitrov, who come through an epic match against Griekspoor to win the final. He's up against Brandon Nakashima. Now, Brandon Nakashima, talking about players who must be exhausted, he must be absolutely shattered the amount of tennis he's playing. And in the last 3 matches, he hasn't been playing very well. He's got beaten the first round in Japan, Shanghai, Stockholm, and hasn't even won a set. But there is question marks about Tommy Paul after he's just won the tournament here. We know he needs to have a good week again to put pressure on to get into the Turin event, but he's got to overturn a decent head-to-head in Nakashima's favour. 3-1 Nakashima leads the head-to-head, and he won their last meeting, which was here. Not here. It was in Montreal this year, 6-1 in the final set. On the odds, minus 265 is the price for Tommy Paul. Plus 195 is Nakashima. Nakashima has already seen money since these lines have gone up. Total is 21.5. But we're waiting for Bet Rivers now to come up with all the prop markets. But the money line, I can imagine, is where you want to concentrate here, because if you want to get Nakashima at plus 195, you want to do it now, because there is money coming for Brandon Nakashima in this match.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, on the head-to-head and on fatigue levels, all the rest of it, for Tommy Paul, I don't really buy this getting to Turin thing. You know, yeah, they want to do it, but they've got to have the energy to do it. They can't dredge resources up that they don't have. You know, and it's been a very, very long season for everybody, longer than normal because of the Olympics and stuff, which was thrown in the middle. So obvious fatigue for Paul and a quick turnaround. You know, he hasn't got long to celebrate this title. He's won Stockholm a couple of times now, I think, Tommy Paul. Obviously enjoys playing there. From his point of view, he might be thinking, well, you know, I'll try my best in Vienna, but, you know, then I've got another long week, I've got another Masters 1000, you know, in Paris. So I wouldn't be taking minus 265 about anybody that's just won a tournament and within 2 days he's playing in the first round somewhere else against the guy who's beat him the last 3 times. So, you know, Nakashima's proven a very difficult guy for Tommy Paul to break down in their career series. Across all of the matches, it's Nakashima that leads the service points won and return points won totals by 103 to 97. Nakashima winning 6% more on second serves. He's held serve 88% of the time against Tommy Paul, but there is a caveat that he has saved a very big 75% of the break points against him, Nakashima, serving really well when he's needed to. But it's just, it's going to be a grind, and you've got to wonder whether Paul's up for this physically, mentally, emotionally after winning, you know, another title in Stockholm. He must be looking at this draw thinking, well, Nakashima, you know, give me a break. I need someone a little bit, you know, someone that I've had more success against rather than someone like this. I wasn't surprised that Nakashima's had a dip after an awful lot of tennis that he played in the summer. It wasn't a surprise that he's dipped in the last few weeks, but from his point of view, he's going to need to stop this run of losses pretty quickly. He doesn't want to end the season on a sort of 0-5. You know, that's not what you want to be doing as a player. And he should fancy this. You know, he's beaten him the last 3 times. He should be the one who's fresher. He certainly will be the one who's had more time to prepare on these courts. So Nakashima for me, yeah, plus 195.
Yep. Nakashima, plus 195. Make sure you head across to the BetRivers website, because that plus 195, I do not believe, will last. Get a little bit of figures. Game bet match this year, minus 686. We've got a big 1,000 to come. We've got 500 this week, and then we've got a couple of 250s before the Tour Championships and the end of the season. So the goal is to turn that negative into a positive. I'm sure that we'll be able to do that. The WTA show was minus 2 units, 81. And the Premier League show and the soccer and the extra time on European soccer has started on fire with almost 20 units profit between the two of them. And that will even grow, I think, over the weekend results as well. So really good start on the football season, and the tennis will be growing as we come to the end and hopefully be in profit. Sean, before I let you go for today, can you just give us a little recap with the picks at both venues, if you could?
Yeah, so Vienna, Nakashima to beat Tommy Paul at plus 195, I think he was, with Bet Rivers. The second bet there, Jan-Lennard Struff to win the opening set against Alex de Minaur. I think he was plus 200 or thereabouts. 2.95 plus 195 that was with Bet Rivers. And the outrights, I'm taking Draper just to win the tournament outright, 8-1. And I'm having half a point each way on Mensik at 33-1 each way there in Vienna. Now I'll just bring Basel back up on my screen. So as far as the outrights are concerned in Basel, I'm taking Humbert. I think he was 9-1, wasn't he? With Bet Rivers, 9-1, just to win the tournament. And I'm taking a little bit of a punt on Sasha Bublik, Alexander Bublik, 33-1 each way there. And as far as the match bets are concerned, I'm taking Shang plus 110 with Bet Rivers to beat Denis, Shapovalov, and I'm going to take the 2.48 about set one over 10.5 games in the match between Stricker and Griekspoor.
Yep, I like Artur Feast in Basel. I think he's got a great chance. Keep an eye on him. Not an official play, but I think he's going to have a good end of the season. I really like what I see. Very, very confident player going places, and Mentic as well as a two. I think it's going to be a week for the youngsters. It's going to be a very good week for the youngsters, hopefully. Fingers crossed. Sean, thanks very much for your time. Remember, you can download this podcast, Betting Weekly Game Bet Match, on your preferred podcast provider. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Betting Weekly Studios. We're always up to 6,000 subscribers, which is a remarkable achievement. We want to get that done very, very quickly. So if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to that. Give us a comment here. Give us a like. That helps the algorithms to get everybody watching the show a little bit more. And finally, follow us on our socials at Because We Win on Instagram and on Twitter. For anything you may have missed, remember there's also content coming away. It's a big week of soccer action as well, with the Champions League returning on Tuesday, Wednesday, and also Monday to Friday at 11 o'clock Eastern time. Every day on the Monday, Friday, a Betting Weekly Live. One of the handicapping team will be on, giving you the best bets for that day. And with Champions League coming up, and the amount of winners the guys have been putting up, that is something you cannot miss. So make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, Betting Weekly Studios, to make sure you get an alert every single time one of our bits of content drops. Sean, thanks again. Have a good rest of your Sunday, and we'll be back on Tuesday to looking ahead to looking at the day's fixtures, the day's matches, and all the talking action at the 500 this week in Basel and Vienna. Take care.